Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Clem, and I will be your host. Today, we will be speaking about managing Microsoft Teams performance from anywhere at any time, basically. Before we jump in, I want to mention that if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat window, and we will address them at the end of the session. And I think that's it. We can begin with an introduction of today's speakers. Jeff, Olive, which one of you would like to start?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Clem. This is Olivier Reynaud. I'm a GSX CTO based in Boston, and I've been with GSX for a bit over 10 years now. Very excited to be hosting this webinar today with Jeff.
Yeah, I'm Jeff, or Jean-François, but people call me Jeff, it's easier. I am responsible for all the strategic alliances we have at GSX and of course with Microsoft, and I'm very happy as well to present that webinar today. So maybe let's go directly on the agenda because we have a lot of review today. So we start with a short introduction, of course, and then right after we will see what you can do from an IT and from a user perspective in order to improve the Microsoft Teams experience for your remote worker. That's really the purpose of today. And we will show you that with real-life data that we have thanks to our GSX tool, and how you can really act on it in order to support your remote worker, improve their experience with Office 365, and of course, mostly with Microsoft Teams. And finally, Olivier will conclude by showing you what we are cooking right now to extend our monitoring capabilities of Microsoft Teams. Right, Oliver?
Exactly. I will be very happy to show you some exclusives today. And also, first of all, I hope really that everybody is safe given the COVID-19 context, and that by you and your close ones are doing good, and that your business has been able to continue. I know we've had a lot of feedback, some better than others. So that's also one of the goals today, is to give you some actionable items so that you can do the best possible with the collaboration tools that exist today, and with Teams especially.
Yep. So let's go. Short introduction. You've probably all read the impressive figures that explain the surge of Microsoft Teams usage over the last few weeks. I mean, it has been crazy, especially in Italy, but in every country, basically, where everybody has to work from home. But you might not have read about the increase in VPN usage too. And these figures are quite interesting as well. Because people are working from home, and to allow that, most of the enterprise IT had to adjust their VPN needs. And we will speak about that right after. And all of that came with new challenges caused by the strain on the VPN concentrators, for example, the proxy you might have, your DLP, your bandwidth, the MPLS, etc. And on top of that, now you have to support users that are at their home, and it can sometimes a bit harder than when they are sitting at the office. And again, we will see how you can ease that process with GSX today. So, right before going on the different use case and see what you can do with your network and with the network directly at your user, a quick few words about the GSX, because it's important for you to understand how we get the data that we will show you right after. So basically, we are specialists in synthetic transaction for Office 365 and hybrid Microsoft environments. We have done that for many, many years now. And our tool works with small Windows services that run on Windows machine and that doesn't cause any impact on network. They are continuously testing Office 365 workloads, Teams included, of course, to provide 24/7 monitoring data from anywhere. It depends where you want to put the robot, basically, at your offices or directly at home on user's machine. And the data, again, that we will see directly is generated by these probes. And usually we are dealing with enterprises with plenty of different offices that are testing Office 365 from all the different offices in order to check the quality of service and improve it. And because of the situation, more and more asked us if we could use our technology to help remote users to get better performance. And that's why we have done that webinar, because yes, we can do that, and we will show you how. So let's go directly on the first part of that webinar. That is basically what you can do from an internal IT perspective to improve the user experience of your remote workforce. Okay, so here it's really you as IT administrator, what you can enable in your infrastructure, what can you do in order to improve the experience for everybody at the same time. So let's go. So maybe if you have read the Microsoft documentation on network connectivity principle, you certainly have seen that specific chart. It comes from there. And it's just a reminder that despite the large acceleration in cloud adoption, most of the enterprise IT are still using this architecture. So basically it's what? It's remote offices using MPLS to connect to the data center, and then remote worker using VPN, backhauling the traffic to the data center as well. And after the data center, everything egress finally to the internet and Office 365. And of course, that goes against Microsoft recommendation to provide better performance to your Office 365 user, because the recommendation of Microsoft is basically you have to go directly to the internet. So when you do that, you extend the road, and when you extend the road to Office 365, you increase the latency. So the thing is that you can really act on it, and we have compiled several recommendations that Microsoft gives, and others as well, in order to improve that. So the first one, let's go directly to the Microsoft recommendation. So to make a long story short, again, Microsoft recommends a direct connection between your users and the Office 365 data center. And it would be simple if there was no security concern. But we are not living in a magical world, and there is security concern. There are, and that's why Microsoft has worked a lot to improve, to give you more ways to achieve that and to improve the situation. The first thing that they have done is reduce the number of endpoints and IPs that are critical for performance. And you can see they are all here. Like there's 4 endpoints, 4 URLs, and a few IPs. And all of that concentrate 80% of the traffic. So all these URLs and IPs are called optimized. And Microsoft has promised to keep them stable. Because, you know, I mean, a year and a half ago, as I was like, I don't know, maybe 100 of them, and they were changing constantly. So from a security point of view, it was really difficult. But now they are down to 4 with a few IPs. And they really say, for example, it will not change till June, for example. But there will always be 4 URLs and the IPs as well. So it might change, but very not really often. And so the purpose is to give you stability. And on top of that, you might know that Microsoft onboard directly a lot of security things in order for you not to have to replicate them again. So, for example, DLP, conditional access policies, MFA, antivirus, anti-malware, all of that, all these points are secured by Microsoft directly with all this technology. So you don't have to duplicate this technology again. So you can find all this information on Microsoft documentation online, and if you want, after we can send you the link to all of that. So now you have identified what to differentiate. Now you need to allow your VPN to send the optimized traffic direct out the user local internet connection to access the nearest Office 365 service front door. So that's very important. So basically, it's called split tunneling. So you're at home, most of the traffic is going through your VPN, and these 4 endpoints and few IPs are not going through your data center, but will exit the user directly to the internet in order to access Office 365. And you can do that with the split tunneling. Again, on the Microsoft site, there's plenty of documentation in order to do that. The question is, and we really wonder, does it worth it? Because there's still a security concern, even if, again, Microsoft is doing everything. Does it worth it to do that? And basically, we run some tests, and Oliver, maybe you can show us some.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Jeff. So yeah, let me show you. So actually, we've run a few experiments, and we've deployed our GSX robots, as we call them, to really provide some data and show you. So we've done that in our own company in different locations, different users. So let's take a look at a first example. So I know some of you are familiar with our dashboards. If you're not, we can run experiments. We can run syntax transactions tests on various workloads. What we're going to focus on today is really on the Teams, as it's the topic of the webinar, and uh, more specifically on the Teams voice. So here, what the robots have been doing are actual calls, conference calls, or any scheduled calls taking place from that location to the Microsoft cloud, connecting to the relay servers and in the Microsoft infrastructure. Same thing that's happening when you place a Teams call or a scheduled call or a conference call, as I mentioned. So let's take a look. And there was a question I'll answer at the same time on what actually, what kind of metrics do we bring. We really focus on the syntax transactions, and we bring as many metrics as we can on the underlying network metrics, for example. So here, if we focus on Teams voice, you can see we have the MUS from each of those calls, from each of the locations, but we also have some of the underlying network metrics like the packet loss rate, reorder, jitter, round trip time, the protocol. So we gather as many metrics as possible so that you can take actions and troubleshoot where the issue is taking place. So we're going to take a look at Singapore. What we've done there is run two of our robots. One is on a machine, and that's egressing locally. So respecting what Jeff just mentioned, the Office 365 traffic is egressing from that location, connecting to the closest possible front door, which I believe there's one in Singapore. So it's really a short path to the Microsoft Global Network, which is then really fast to transmit the packets to where the information is for your tenants. In this example, the tenant is located in the US. And the second robot, which you can see here in green, is actually tunneling all of the traffic through VPN in a location in Europe. So it's actually exiting in France and then reaching the tenant in America. It's pretty interesting to see. If we take a look first probably at the MOS, we can see a clear distinction. Really the quality of the calls taking place from the location that egressing locally is really consistent, pretty good MOS score, probably as good as it's possible to get. 4.3, it's in reality the best you can achieve. At the opposite, we see the robot going through the VPN. All that traffic is going all the way from Singapore to France, then exiting in France, connecting to the Microsoft Global Network, and then going to the US. And it's making this pretty unstable, we're going to say, and much more subject to some bad performance. Here you can see we're dropping really low under 4. This is where your users might experience some robotic voice or even some dropped calls. Definitely not what you want to achieve. So that's really the high level, but you can see all the metrics. Obviously, we're extending that route, that path to the cloud, so the round trip time is really high. We're at maximum like 600, and there's a really high jitter that is taking place. And we know for those for the quality of calls, the jitter is what makes the quality very unpredictable, and the Teams client is going to have troubles to really fix any of that quality. And just to give you a recap, that's like an index that we compute, really an SLA. I had computed here. If we take a look at the 2 Singapore locations, we really see a drop. So that really acts as a performance SLA. Here we see 100% of the times the call that took place were providing good quality. With the VPN, we're at 72%. That means 80% of the time, users might have experienced a painful call or really a feeling of bad performance. Again, that robotic voice or drop calls. So it's really important to focus on egressing that traffic as early as possible If you can't do for all the traffic, definitely focus on those optimized endpoints that Jeff just mentioned. And we know for large enterprises, it might take a few discussions around security. There's a lot of great articles from Microsoft about split tunneling and all the security that's taking place already in Office 365 that you don't have to replicate for that kind of traffic. So definitely work on that, and that might be a longer topic, but definitely something very important to consider.
And you just show us how dramatically it can improve the Microsoft Teams performance just by doing that. So it's really a topic you should have with your security, and really something you should think about implementing. So great, good first point. Second point, we spoke about VPN. So maybe it will be just a reminder for a lot of people here, but first thing with VPN, check your license. I mean, you might already know, but the VPN license, they are counted by the number of concurrent users. And with the dramatic surge in number of users, you need to make sure that you have enough VPN license for that. So that's a very stupid point, but very important to watch. And the second one is to look carefully at your firewall. Because again, the massive number of remote workers put a huge strain on the hardware. So you might need additional capability to provide a decent user experience as well, and to have your VPN working fine. And the last point is the DHCP, because the DHCP is also under stress. So maybe a quick reminder again, but when you connect to a VPN, you are given an IP address. And the number of IP address is limited by the DHCP. So you need to make sure that your DHCP can assign as many addresses as you have concurrent VPN users. So that's very important, the license, the hardware, and your DHCP. So now we have seen all the VPN topic. Let's continue on with other tips, again, infrastructure tips to maximize the remote worker experience. So the last one we have here for internal IT, and then we'll go for users directly, is the QoS. So if you cannot do split tunneling, and if your users are forced to connect to Office 365 through your data center, make sure at least that you have implemented the quality of service. You can have you can check your router, and on your router you can differentiate the traffic in order to always keep a decent share of the bandwidth for voice call and conferencing. And we did the test with our robot, a bit like we did Oliver did recently. We did that last year, and we could see on another webinar, and we could see really a real impact on that. So the solution is imperfect sometimes because, for example, you can't control if the ISP is doing that too. Usually they are doing, but not all of them. But it's really something worth to be done. Okay, so again, on QoS, there's plenty of documentation. So it's really something that you should take a look. So we have seen the part from the IT, how you can improve your internal IT to improve the experience of everybody. And now we will discuss about how you can directly support your remote worker and help them getting a better connection after you have, of course, improved your IT for that. So let's go directly, and we'll discuss two categories of tips. The first one is the one we will see right now, are tips that are easy to do at home. Everybody can do that, not very difficult. And the second set of tips will be certainly require IT assistance, and we will see that right after. So for end user, I mean, the first one is basically very simple, is to use the Teams client instead of the web version when you can do it. Because for a simple reason, it's supposed to handle better network with bandwidth restriction. And so Oliver, did you test that as well, or did you check that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some global feedback. I don't think there's a lot of documentation from Microsoft on that. Generally speaking, I would recommend to use the rich client, although the browser version have really caught up recently. If you use Edge based on Chromium or Chrome, they now support, I think, pretty much all the features. There's a features parity there. But global feedback seems to be that there's a better performance experience from the rich clients. And overall, I mean, this is one of the reason I believe Microsoft is really successful in the Office suite is because the clients are really giving you a great experience. So that'd be a recommendation for that too. So definitely make sure that your end users are trained. They know how to leverage the desktop application and the mobile application from Teams instead of just relying from the browser.
Mm. Yep. The second tip is about LAN connection. Of course, I mean, people always prefer Wi-Fi, but LAN can make a difference. And I think we have done some tests as well to show you what kind of performance improvement you can have.
Exactly. So we've done pretty much a similar test that I've just showed you. So the idea was to really compare for the same location. So really the same place, same network, same ISP, same router, just having the LAN versus the Wi-Fi. And we've seen some pretty interesting results. So let's take a look directly. So that was actually in my location in Boston. You're going to see one is I am connected through the cable through the LAN, and I have a compute stick that has been performing tests 24/7 over the Wi-Fi network. And the best of the Wi-Fi networks I have, we'll see that right after. Same thing, pretty interesting results, and especially in those times where everybody's working from home. Most of you're probably in a lockdown, so there's like no other place you can really work from. We're not moving that much, so definitely the LAN can be a good thing to connect to. So here you can see in green, that's the Wi-Fi, and red, this is, so again, we're looking at the MUS score. That's really the highest level metric for the call. The red is really consistent. We're around 4.2, between 4.2 and 4.3. So remember that MUS score, if you're not familiar, this is like the number of stars, that a user would grade the call after it's completed, and this is gotten computed automatically based on all the metrics from the call. You want that to be above 4 at all times. Anything under is going to be pretty dramatic. You can see last Thursday there's been a pretty bad issue with my my internet at some point. But other than that, really consistent, good results. And again, the Wi-Fi is sometimes dropping under 4. So again, if you want to put all chances for you, using the LAN is going to bring much better results. And we see that pretty much everywhere in terms of the bandwidth, the round trip time. Everything is just more reliable. Although Wi-Fi networks have really improved over the past few years, there's still going to be a little higher latency, and some packets will drop where the cable will not permit that and will be really consistent in your experience. So for some of you, it can make really the difference in audio calls. And for the rest of you, if you have good metrics for enabling video or screen sharing, that can be what can bring that difference and the better quality in that experience.
Mm. Yes. So you mentioned Wi-Fi. Let's speak quickly about that. So you probably know now there's two frequency, let's say that, for Wi-Fi, the 5G and 2.4. And they both have their advantage and disadvantage. The 5G is usually faster, and now, I mean, most of the people are using that. But the range of the 5G is smaller, so it depends on your setup at home. In some room, you will have a better connection with a 2.4G than with a 5G. So basically, to make sure of that, to know what's going on, it's better to do a speed test with both of your frequency and check, depending on your setup, what is the best. And then sometimes at your place as well, you have a router, and then it's very difficult to have any signal in any 2.4 or the 5 in a specific room because it's too far, or because your walls are too big, let's say that. And in this case, you can use a Wi-Fi mesh system. Like there's plenty on the market. Google, Amazon are doing them, that repeat the signal in all the other rooms. So that could be a good solution as well. But Oliver, I think you have done a test as well between 5 and 2.4G to see a bit the difference.
Yes, exactly. So let me show you that use case. And just to back up what you just said, I think it's really important to look at the metrics. Indeed, nowadays, the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi are usually more reliable and faster. It might be the case 90% of the time. Sometimes it's not. The 2.4, they are known to go through the walls easier. So depending where your router is and where you're working from, this might have an impact as well. So as always, the best is really to get the metrics for making the best decision, and not just be based on feelings. So we've run that test from the Buffalo location. There are 2 robots. One has been connected to the 2.4 network and the other one to the 5. And again, interesting results if we zoom in here on the MUS. So it's not as different, much closer to one another, but you can definitely see the biggest drops are for the network, the 2.4 network. So here, definitely for that context, that user and this router, it would we would recommend to connect to the 5 gig network, which is going to often be the case, but not always. I can tell you from my personal experience. Last year, I run into a few issues with my Wi-Fi and my router, and the 2.4 was performing much better from my office than the 5 gigahertz. So there's a few ways you can do that. Obviously, if you have GSX, it's very easy. You can tell from those metrics. If not, at least try to run manual tests, and there's a lot of speed tests that can help you see the bandwidth and the ping time. It's not going to be as accurate, but it will give you some indication. You need some metrics to take the right decision. And again, I mean, if we look at the other metrics across the board, it's pretty similar. Like the jitter, the round trip time, they're looking better on the 5 gig network. You can see here, even during that time, there was definitely something going on, probably some interference going on with the 2.4 gig network, and not with the 5 one. It's pretty stable around 50, 60 millisecond round trip time, and same thing for the jitter. You can see it's consistent across the board for the 5 gig, and we see some peaks only happening for the 2.4. So in this case, for that user, definitely favor the 5 gig. And that's another thing. I think you had also mentioned, Jeff, there's more interferences that can take place on the 2.4. There was some interesting examples and studies that were done.
Yeah, basically it was I wanted to speak about that in the next slide, but that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, because I mean any connected device by default they are going on 2.4, and there's, even your microwave can interfere with your 2.4 Wi-Fi. So there have been really interesting studies. So that's why it's better. We will speak about interference and channel right after. So right before going to the next slide, that are more advanced tips. Well, if you cannot do LAN and if your Wi-Fi is bad, try your 4G hotspot. Sometimes it saves lives. You know, it has been for me, for example, it has been a really important at different points because I had a big problem with my router, and so LAN was done and the Wi-Fi was done as well. And the only way was 4G, and sometimes 4G is almost as good as the Wi-Fi that you can have to make calls. So let's go on the advanced tip. Yeah, sorry.
No, yeah, I was going to add the tethering is definitely, I don't know if it's a lifesaver, but at least a meeting saver, and can be a really good thing to benefit from. And those days too, there are especially I know in the U.S., but in several countries I know the mobile providers they are doing some offers with unlimited bandwidth. So that's something you can benefit in this specific context of COVID-19 to maybe leverage that if that can help you have better performance.
Yep, definitely. So next tips are more a bit advanced. Probably most of your users won't be able to do that alone, but they can really help again. So the first one is the QoS again, the quality of service. What we've seen for the IT infrastructure can be also done at home. So for that, you need to connect to the router, and you can enable it. Then it's usually based on your IP or MAC address. So it will prioritize the video and conference from one laptop over the rest of the house. So it can be really important when you work, and you not every router can do that, but it will be as well the next topic, because most of the new router now allow this kind of things. So it's really something that could be interesting, and I think even you, Oliver, at your place, you could do it. Huh?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's cool. I cannot. I need to change my router. That's the second point. The second point is the router. I mean, basically, different studies say, and it's true, that if your router is more than 5 years old, basically you should change it, or you should have your user or VIP change it. Because first, it probably doesn't support the latest version of Wi-Fi. A lot of people are on Wi-Fi G, but the newest is Wi-Fi AC, and it's better, more reliable, faster, and you should, of course, if you can have it, it's better. Also, with an old router, you might not have a choice between 2.4 and 5G in terms of frequency. And finally, because the newer router means faster processor, and it improves as well the quality of the connection. And for that, I think on the router, Oliver, did you have an example as well?
Yes, we got one example just in time. Very happy to show that. So we had one location. Our VIP user has had some bad experience taking place, and let me just switch here. It will work better with the right filter. And that happened to me as well. So really, those are real life stories. This really happened. But my router was really behaving kind of hectic. Like sometimes it's really hard to troubleshoot hardware issues. I think that's one of the questions I've seen in the chat, like how to diagnose that. And it's really tough. First, you must have metrics again in order to know what's going on. And when there's no logical explanations, sometimes it's just the hardware that's at fault. So if you can do like some kind of A/B testing and have another router to be tested, that's great. If not, as you mentioned, Jeff, I think it's wise to just change the router, and that's what happened here. We were seeing some packets being dropped, some high latency, but it wasn't really consistent. You can see it's kind of going up and down, and we've replaced the router. For that VIP user, it actually happened yesterday, so we weren't sure about being able to show the test, but it's been really more consistent, more reliable since that new router was in place. And also, we've implemented all of the recommendations that you mentioned on the newest router. So not only you're going to benefit from, yes, faster processors, the latest standard, which you should definitely have, but also there's now QoS that's possible to implement. It can be based on specific machines, often not based on protocols like it should be in your internal network, but still it can do an improvement. And if you have the rest of the family watching Netflix and you're on an audio calls, you definitely want to put priority on the audio call packets so that you can have a good experience in that call. So again, really an easy example you can see from here that I think the numbers talk for themselves.
Great. So two last points that are a bit more technical. The Wi-Fi channel overlap. So basically, it happened mostly with old router again, and with 2.4G. So it's interference and what we spoke already. But basically, your Wi-Fi, when you are on the frequency, it uses channel. But the channel can be used by other device or even your neighbor, especially the 2.4, because it's very good at going through the wall. So if you are on the same channel than other people, then basically your connection will be not as good. Okay, and that it will interfere with the signal. And you can use, again, if you support your user, you can use a quick Wi-Fi analyzer to see what's happening and change the channel if needed. And finally, you have the DNS points. So basically some ISP DNS are not as good as a public one like Google, but on this one you should be cautious. So, my dear Oliver?
Yes, definitely be extremely careful because it might not impact Teams and SharePoint because they use unicast, for Exchange, the DNS resolution is directly going to impact where the connection will be made and which front door will the user be connected to. So that's something always to consider in your internal network, but also for the end user. So just be careful when you use that. It's good to, if you don't have a tool in place, to at least check with just like PowerShell where you're resolving your DNS, or Microsoft has a tool in POC, the connectivity tool, that can help you diagnose where the connection is being made and where is the DNS server that's used to do that resolution.
Okay. So let's go now on the last part, and we'll try to be quick because we are almost over time, about basically how JSX can help you supporting your user. We'll speak a bit more about deployment and this kind of robot user, etc. So let's go. And so what we've seen, again, and thanks to Olivier, thank you, but to be able to analyze what's going on, you need data. And for that, you need to collect statistics to establish a performance baseline with the different robots that you can have. So the performance baseline that you can have with all these tests that are constantly done by the different robots enable you to really compare what is normal, a normal service with when you have an issue. You can understand when the issue happened. Are they, is it recurring issue? Do they happen at a specific time all the time? You can compare the different network options and see really the result of any change that you have done to improve the quality of service for your VIP. So it's very important to collect, to have data if you want to troubleshoot. It's a bit the same, when we do that with enterprises that have different locations and wants to troubleshoot or to improve the service quality at their location. They need data, and that's why they get this kind of robot. So for the install, you can install the robot, and it was one of the questions. You can install the robot directly on the laptop of the VIP. Again, it's a small Windows service. You don't see it, and it's basically constantly testing the Office 65 with real action, with voice Teams call, with Exchange, with OneDrive. We do the main workload, and again, it's transparent. It doesn't affect the network. It's just one user, and that's all. So it's important you can do that. We will recommend, if you can, to tell your VIP user to let the laptop on 24 hours if you want to have 24 hours data. And if it's not possible, and if he closes his laptop, then you will have only business hour data. That's all. You can as well install on the Wi-Fi stick. Basically, a Wi-Fi stick, it's HDMI, and you connect that to the TV, and it's run 24 hours by default. So here with that, you will have constantly a Wi-Fi robot that is constantly doing tests on Office 65, and you will have constant data, again, that could be very helpful to understand what's going on at a specific VIP. For that, you need a stick. It's a Windows stick. There's plenty of the market. And if you are interested, we will tell you which kind of stick you can get. Okay? So, of course, the best way is to have all these robots directly targeting Office 65 with split tunneling. If it's not possible, they will follow your traffic through the data center the same way that the user is doing. Okay? So maybe in 1 minute, Oliver, can you show us quickly, when you have that in place with all the user, what you can see? Quickly, we saw Teams, but maybe just to give a view on the other.
Yes, definitely. Happy to do that. So, the dashboard I used today was one of the views that you have available to you. Overall, we can perform those tests against different workloads. So really the core critical workloads are on Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. We can also do Skype for Business if you're still on that platform. And the idea is really to provide different levels. So if I go really quickly, really the idea is to show you all the results from the tests that are being performed, whether they are from compute sticks, from laptop, desktop. They can be run on anything that's a Windows machine at the moment, Windows OS. And we like to break down the information. We have a very high-level dashboard that allows you to understand what's the global SLA, it's kind of a global health score, and then show the map where you can see each of the locations, and then you can drill down in each of the workloads. So we looked at Teams Voice earlier, but we have similar one for Exchange, where you can see each of the actions and the network metrics behind that when we connect to the specific endpoint. So here we're connecting to the Exchange online endpoint, and you can see all of the metrics. You can easily drill down, and that's the case for every single workload. We do have some other views focusing more on analyzing the user experience or analyzing each of the metrics. So again, I need to go fast for the sake of time, but definitely reach out if you want to drill down further. I would be happy to show you a more in-depth demo of the product, really showing each of the layers and how you can leverage that. Especially during those times, as you mentioned, Jeff, I think it's really critical to have the right metrics to be able to understand what's happening and diagnose the issues to resolve them.
Yep. Okay, so we are almost over. Quick slide on because we had the question many times, so then you will have the answer. The difference between our robots that are testing constantly and the Microsoft Call Quality Dashboard and other real user monitoring tools. So basically at J6, as I told you, we are using kinetic transaction to have the status of the service. And for that, thanks to that, you have 24 hours data and service quality statistics. So it allows you to compare, to troubleshoot. We have seen that. The call quality dashboard is very good to analyze specific call made by a user and determine which user on that call had issues. And then it gives you spot metrics. So you just have like the different numbers for the different metrics, but you cannot trend it. You don't have any graph. You cannot troubleshoot. You cannot reanalyze. So it's good to know who has problem sometimes, but that's all. The real user monitoring are also a good tool, but they are mostly focused on network, OS, HTTPS connection to the internet, and they can't really provide Microsoft Teams data because they cannot really analyze the Teams data because they are encrypted. And us, what we've done is that the robot on board a light Teams client, and we are able to do our test and see the result of this test. So it's our test. So it's possible we are able to get the data and to analyze them and to show you them. So that's really completely unique. So let's finish with this last slide on basically what we can offer you to support your business continuity. So for that, basically we have that offering that is right now that you can access to. So it's a J6 work from home version that is free for 30 days. So everybody that attends to this webinar can have access to a free version for 30 days. You can install as many as 100 robots to your user to troubleshoot the service, to validate the result of your change, to do all the troubleshooting that we show you today. And after that, after these 30 days, if you want to continue, it's $3,000 per month, and it will be valid until August. I hope by August everybody will come back to the office and work. But again, so again, it's for everybody that attends. So just contact us after, and we will be happy to help you with that. So it's time to conclude, and it's time for you, Oliver, to show us the latest feature for Teams. We have seen voice today a lot, and but it's not the only thing that we will be able to do, huh?
Exactly. So yeah, couple of items. If existing client or you're discovering GSX today, we've improved the granularity of what we show on Teams. So first item was to really drill down in that connection and the Teams login. So we have a new dashboard that's breaking down each of the steps that are taking place in the connection. So the authentication, retrieval of the properties, the network going underneath. And for that, we're really unique because we are actually replicating what the Teams client is doing. We're not leveraging any APIs or the web pages. We're simulating what your users are going through when they are using the Teams client. And what's really brand new is that we've added more actions. So we were able to do a login, to do a conference call, a schedule calls, and now we've added support for many other actions. So you can see here, this is really early. We've just implemented that internally. It's not released yet, but you're going to have visibility over each of the actions. So whether it's creating a channel, posting a message, downloading files from that channel, searching users, testing the presence, and obviously the instant message. And the way that we're doing that is really end-to-end. So, for example, for presence, the instant message, the idea is to post that presence status or change it and check from another user that they had received this change of presence. And same thing for the instant message. So we're really excited to bring that out. We'll release that towards end of May or so in our next release. So we're really excited about that, and yeah, looking forward to see that in your environment as well.
Yep.
There was
So
one
maybe,
question I'd like
yes,
to answer
maybe.
as well, just on the thresholds, because we see throughout our applications in real time or in the history, we make computation on whether it's good, whether it's bad. This is based on thresholds that we have picked based on our experience, our work with our customers. We've been in business for more than 20 years now, so we have quite some experience on synthetic transactions and the user experience. But you can, however, change those thresholds. We know that you might have a different experience. Maybe your company is always going through VPN and to that headquarter before going out. So those thresholds are something that you can change throughout the application so that you can have your own performance SLA based on the baseline. So the idea is always to perform a baseline first, understand what it means for your users to have a good user experience, and based on that and the expectations, you can set thresholds accordingly.
And last question we had, if we recommend to deploy probes at VIP homes. But yes, you can, and you can deploy them on the same laptop again that your VIP. That's completely possible. Again, it's transparent. I mean, Oliver, you have one, I have one, Antoine, our CEO, has one, other have at JSX and at other clients, and there's never been any problem for that with that. So you can deploy them directly there. Usually what they do is that you deploy them, you troubleshoot, so you let them run for a week or two, and you improve the situation. You check with JSX that the situation is really improved on the consistent metrics, and then you move you disinstall it and you install it on the next VIP. So it's really it's a very good tool for troubleshooting to address that. That's what we want to offer today, and I hope that this webinar was interesting for you.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. We thank you all for your participation. As you might have seen, we are quite passionate about this subject, so we went a bit over time, but we hope you enjoyed it. If we did not get a chance to answer your question, we will get back to you directly, to contact you directly via email or by phone. And I think that's it. Thank you very much. There's a survey that's going to pop up right after the session, so if you can answer it, will be very insightful for us. And that's it. Stay safe. And thank you all. See you soon.